Okay, so now it is the time to go into the actual labs, and it is time to see the 3 migration tools. So in this one, I will be showing you Google Workspace migration for Microsoft Exchange, or GWMME for shortcut. And in this section, or in this video, I will be going through a demo migration from some accounts from Exchange server that I have it set up in a lab to Google Workspace. And I'll be discussing these few points. So I'll start with the prerequisites that you will need in order to have GWMME set up, or that you need to consider before setting up GWMME and before starting your migration. And then I will show you the steps that you need to do in order to set up GWMME in your environment, and then how to authorize it with Google Workspace. And then I will show you the steps that you need to take in order to authorize it with the Exchange server. And after that, we'll run the migration and see the migration reports. So as a first step, I will be showing you my environment, which is actually created on Hyper-V. So I have these 3 machines. This is the Active Directory, that is the authentication and the identity provider for this whole environment. Then I have this Exchange server, which is Exchange 2016, and I have the client machine, or this is the one that I'll be using to perform the migration. And when you look at the actual server or the actual environment, this is my environment, my Exchange environment. So I have some demo users, and some of these users have some data, some other users don't have data. For this migration, I will be working with testing user 04, testing user 05, and testing user 06. These 3 users, I have created some random emails and some random content, although it is very minimal. It's even less than 10 items, I think, in total or something. But you get to see the idea of how these items will be migrated into the counterpart accounts of Google Workspace. Now, in terms of prerequisites, what you need to do, or what you need to have before starting the migration, first of all, you will need to have a Office 32-bit installed on the migration computer that you will need to use. Then you will need to have also a role account on the Exchange server. This role account should have the receive as permission, as mentioned, on all of the mailboxes that will be migrated. So it should have receive as on these mailboxes. Now, I will be doing this on the whole database, which is similar to what you can do on these mailboxes levels, but just doing this on the whole database is going to be a little bit faster. And then the third prerequisite that you have is you should have direct connectivity to the Exchange server. And you can achieve this by either configuring the tool manually, GWMME, or by actually using the Outlook profile. Because when you're going to use, or when you're going to work with GWMME, you should have an Outlook profile that is configured and created on the migration computer, which will allow you to migrate contacts, and it will actually be some sort of a prerequisite for the migration as well. So you can consider that this is a 4th prerequisite. And so the goal here is to migrate the emails, the calendar, and the contacts to Google Workspace accounts. And with GWMME, you can migrate all of these at once. So the migration tool will capture the emails and the contacts and the calendar and will migrate them. So these are the prerequisites for or before initiating the migration. Now, what you need to do also right before starting the migration is you have to authorize GWMME to make it work with your domain. And you need to also configure the role account on the Exchange server. Now, for this demonstration and for this lab, I'll be using this same account, which is the Exchange admin that I have created previously. And For the information about authorizing GWMME, they are actually available in Google Workspace help site. This is the article that will show you the required details. Google have actually done something very nice and very lovely, which is an automated script that will create the service account that you will need, and also it will authorize the migration tool against your domain. So if this is the script, and if I just take you to the URL for this one so that you can see what is inside this script. It's a Python script. So this is the content of the script. If you're a Python programmer or if you know Python, I think this will be very easy for you. I'm not really that familiar with Python yet, but I can still understand the stuff that are going on. So these are the scopes that you will need to authorize and you will need to add in your Google Workspace admin console, and these are actually being added for you automatically, which is something very nice and very awesome, and the whole process will be done using this nice script. So all you have to do here is you go to the Cloud Shell, which is on Google Cloud Platform, and then you follow the instructions here, and then you're all set. And just before taking you also to the virtual machine that I have and start working on this, I wanted to show you another link or another page, which is the how-to page or the how-to resource for Google Workspace migration for Microsoft Exchange. Because this tool will be able to migrate more than Exchange server accounts. It can migrate IMAP accounts, it can migrate PST accounts, and you can also have some automation on this by running this from command line, and that's also explained here. And I've used this previously. It was very nice, and it allowed us to do some flexible migration for a complex scenario. So this is good to know, and this is good to utilize also if you want to automate stuff around this migration. So what I will be doing is going to be from the information in this page, not exactly or not directly from here, but whatever I do, it will be actually mentioned here somewhere or another. So I really encourage you to check this page. I will be putting this in the video resources. I really encourage you to check this one and this one so that you are aware about the possible options and the flexibility that you can get when you're running GWMME from command line. So now probably I'm done with the talking and from the introduction. Let me take you to the virtual machine. So this is the migration machine that I will be using, and as you can see, it's probably clean so far. I only have Google Chrome installed and also Microsoft Office 32-bit installed, and with that I have configured the Outlook profile. And if I open Outlook, you'll see the profile. It's empty, there is nothing inside it, but this is the profile that it should be configured. There is a very important setting that I haven't done yet, and I wanted to do it with you in front of you so that you are aware about it, which is when you're configuring the Outlook profile, GWMME requires the caching mode to be disabled. And the way you do this is you go to File, then Account Settings. From the Account Settings, you go to Account Settings again. Yeah, and this is the account that we have. We just go to Change, and then we will uncheck the cached exchange mode, then click Next. It will actually require us to restart Outlook, which is fine. Then I'll click Finish and click Close. So this is all what it takes to disable the caching mode in Outlook with the Exchange profile. So I'll close this. I will open Outlook again, which is in here, and that's it. I'm done. So the Outlook is now ready, and I don't need to do anything else in here. I just have to have the profile configured, caching mode disabled, and that's it. I can even keep Outlook closed for the duration of the rest of the process. So this is the first step that we have. Now I just want to re-emphasize on the point that you should have Microsoft Office Outlook 32-bit installed, and this is not about the version of the OS. This Windows Server is 64-bit, of course, but the office that is installed on it should be 32-bit so that the migration tool can work normally. And actually, if it is 64-bit, GWMME will not work and you cannot do the Exchange migration. So the next step for me here is to download GWMME, which is of course from Google website. And for this, I will type GWMME download. This should give me the first result, which is the download Google Workspace migration for Microsoft Exchange on Google website, so that I will go there and download the tool. Now in this page, there is a very important link that you should read and be aware about, which is the Learn More here. This is going to give you all of the system and the prerequisites and the software requirements for GWMME to work. So while you can click download here immediately, I'll just do it so that we can save some time. Then you really need to read this link and this information here. So when you go to Learn More, it's going to give you this information page, and this table is very important. You need to be aware about the specifications for the client machine, and you also need to be aware about these notes. So as mentioned, 64-bit of Outlook is not supported, and if you have that, then you should replace it with a 32-bit version. And this is the specifics about the Outlook support. So it actually does support Outlook 2003 and 2007, but only if you're migrating from Exchange Server or PST. But if you're migrating from Exchange Online, which is the Office 365 version, then you should use Office 2016 or 2019. So just make sure you read this information in this page. It's very important and critical. So the download is completed, and this is the tool. Now all I have to do here is just double click on it to start the installation, and this is a very straightforward process. You don't even have to go through any step or anything. It's just a quick installation, and then you get the installation complete. So that's it. The tool has been installed. Now you will get two items related to the tool. The first one is Google Workspace migration for Microsoft Exchange. I'll just pin it to the taskbar here so that you can launch it quickly. The second important tool is the show reports. This is not going to give us anything now because we haven't run any migrations, but this is the report view that I'm going to be showing you once we do the test migration, so that you can view the migration results and the failed items and all of the stuff that come after the migration. So there is an error here because, as mentioned, you haven't done any migrations yet. This is going to be fixed in a bit now. So when we start the migration tool, this is the interface for this. It's a very simple and straightforward interface. And there are a few steps that we have to go through in order to complete this setup and to start the migration. First of all, we have to configure the connection to the Exchange server. And after that, we have to configure the source user list and the objects that we want to migrate. And then we have to validate the settings. And after that, we can start the migration process. So the first step here is we should type the URL or the IP of our Exchange server. In my case, it is exmail.com, the domain name. I can go with the IP or the host name, whatever works for you. Then the admin, which is the user who has the permissions to do the migration here. And in my case, it is exadmin. Now I still have to configure the access for this user, which is something that I will do once I am done with the configuration here. Then I will click next. And now this is the domain that I want to migrate into. And in my case, it is my same domain, my primary domain. And the super administrator account that is having access to this domain, which is again, whatever administrator that you have. Now in here, it's going to actually ask you to get the credentials file. This is where that script will come in handy, and for that I will have to switch to my browser, my physical browser, so that I can do the steps since I cannot virtualize my key yet, or I don't want to do it. So I will go to Cloud Shell and follow these steps in order to authenticate and generate the service account for me. So I will open Cloud Shell. This is going to take me to cloud.google.com or console.cloud.google.com so that I can execute the rest of these commands. So it's telling me that, or this is the introduction about Cloud Shell. It's free for all users and so on. I already know this. And it's provisioning the instance for me. Once it's done, I will be able to start using this. So this is the Cloud Shell for my account, and all I have to do here is I will do the command here to paste, and I will start the process. Now, as mentioned, these whole steps, these 5 steps, were done manually before, but now we actually have the script to do all of this for us, which is very awesome and very nice. At the end, we'll just have to take this file that is going to be downloaded for us, which is the service account key, which is the one that is asking for here. We have to take that file and put it here and then load it into this prompt and then move into the next step. So going back to the browser, I will press enter so that we can continue. Now it's going to start going through these processes and these steps. It's going to create a Google Cloud Platform project for me. Once the project is done, it's going to enable the APIs inside it, creating the service account, and then authorizing the service account in Google Workspace, then creating the service account key and downloading or asking us to download the key so that we can use it in the GWMME tool. So we have to authorize the service account. This is the URL that we need to go to. Probably if I click it, it should take me to the page. So we just have to authorize. We just have to click a button to authorize all of these scoops and all of these URLs. So authorize. Then it's telling us that we should come back here and press enter, but it's a good idea and a good practice to just wait a few minutes, at least 3 or 4 minutes, just to make sure the changes are replicated, so that when you press enter here, you don't get any errors or anything that, like something that hasn't been reflected yet. So I guess by now it should have been done properly. So I'm pressing enter, and it is creating the service account key. So now we have the service account key ready for us. It's a JSON file. We're going to download this, and that's it. The authorization should be completed now, and I just have to take this account or this service account key and put it in the server, and then I can move on to the next step, which is probably doing the role account access on Exchange server and then setting up the users list, and then we can move on to start to validating the settings and then starting the migration. So this is the service account key. All I have to do here is I have to click browse, and then I have to select this service account key, which is in the desktop. This is the one. Then click next. This is now the page where we have to select our users list, and we have to select the objects and do some options in here. I'll just go to the Exchange server now. I have to go inside the Exchange server, which is easier actually, so that I can execute the access for my user through the PowerShell, which is actually done in here. So this is the server interface, and I just need to go to the Exchange PowerShell. I'm not sure if I need to do this as administrator, but this is an Exchange specific command, so probably I don't need to be an administrator for it. Okay, so the PowerShell is ready. The command is, as mentioned, I will be doing this on the database level so that I can get through this quickly. In your case, you might want to do it on the user level so that you can get more fine-grained access. Otherwise, you can create a specific role account for the migration, give it the permissions that you need, and once the migration is done, you can just disable this account and keep it for a while for auditing purposes, and then just deleted once and for all. So the command that I'm using is get mailbox database, then add mailbox permission. User is the ex admin. Oh, it's actually add AD permission. Then we want to add it for our ex admin user. Then the permission, or the way that we're going to add the permission, is extended rights, and then receive as. That's it. So it's going to read the list of databases and then apply this permission on the databases. Once this is done, then we'll be all set for the role account access for the migration to be starting. So this is the confirmation that the command has been completed, and I only have one database here since this is a lab and a demonstration environment, so I don't really care about the structure of the databases and all of this. I'm fine with this, so I'm going to switch back to my client, which is this one. And now the user list is a very simple process that we have to build, and it's just a text file. It's mentioning here that this is a CSV file, but you can have it as a text file actually. And the format of this text file can be it can be like 2 columns. So you need to have a mapping between the source users and destination users. And there is a rule here that if the source user is similar to the destination user, then you can just get with a single column file, since the mapping will be probably understood by the tool that the same user is, that the source user is similar to the destination user. Otherwise, you will need to have 2 columns. So you can have the source user and the destination user. You can get some information and some details about this from here. So if you click this, you can then get to go to this link, which will actually give you some information and some details about this process, which is called the control file. There are multiple contents, or there are multiple formats for the control file. You can have a different one for the PST files. You can have a different one for the IMAP file. You can have a different one for the exchange migration. So these are all of the information that you will need to do. And also these are all of the variations that you need to have for the control file and the CSV file. So in our case, we are migrating from an exchange server. This is the detail about this. And as a standard, if you're having 2 columns, then you should start with the source user and then go with the destination user. So this is what we're going to do here. So as mentioned, I can just do a single column, or you can do 2 columns. So you can say tuser04 at mainname.com. So this is my source, and my destination will be the same. So 04 at. Now I can do the same for the rest of the 3 users. This is the control file. This is all what's to it. So I'm closing that. Again, it's mentioning that this is a CSV, but you can get away with a TXT extension. The second important setting in this page is the advanced settings, or the advanced options. First of all, if you change this number, it will affect the performance on the Exchange server, but it will speed up your migration. And it will also put you in risk to trigger the throttling policies and throttling rules that are created by default in the Exchange server and Office 365. So if you're going to change this, make sure that you're changing, or you're reviewing the existing throttling rules that are existing in the Exchange server, the on-prem Exchange server, or Exchange Online, so that your migration does not fail. You can actually get some info about it also from here. So when you click this icon, you get to see a quick tip about it, but if you click learn more, it will take you to a more detailed view, or a more detailed article about this information. And this is very helpful and very handy resource and document. Actually, I'll be sharing with you. I'll put it in the video resources so that you can access this. This is a very extensive document, a PDF document, that is going to cover all of the stuff related to Google Workspace migration for Microsoft Exchange, The name hasn't been updated yet. It should be updated very soon, I believe. But the interface is the same, the information are the same, it's only the name that has changed. So this is one very important, critical, recommended everything document that you really should be aware about as well. It contains an important section about best practices as well. Then for our next setting, or next two settings, we have the migrate deleted items and junk emails. It's up to you if you want to do this. And if you want to exclude some folders, then you can type them here, and those folders will not be migrated. So I'm keeping everything to the defaults here, clicking OK. Then I will choose the control file that I have prepared. Let me minimize this. So I have created the user list. I'll click open, then clicking next. Now it's going to give me a warning to confirm that my users in Google Workspace and Exchange are having the same identical email addresses, which is in my case yes. So I'm fine. So this is the summary now for the migration. And as you see, it's giving us a quick view for all of the migration settings that we have done. And there are some important settings as well. So the first one is migrate all data. This will redo the migration from scratch. It will not do any delta migration. So the idea of this is when you start the migration, GWMME will migrate an item and then it will record that it has migrated an item. So when you rerun the migration again, it will not re-migrate this item. It will just skip it and only migrate the items that haven't been migrated yet. So if you check this behavior will change and it will just re-migrate everything. And probably you might get some duplicates here. It's not really a good idea to check this one unless you are sure that you want to migrate the items again. By cleaning up the destination mailbox and then checking this one, GWMME will ignore its log and it will re-migrate the items. One handy setting here is saving the settings, so you don't have to redo all of these again if you close GWMME. Then the last line, it will give you three options. Run diagnostics. This is important so that it will validate all of our settings. I really hope that after this, these settings will be valid and everything will be green. Then it will estimate the size and the count of the data that it will be migrating. And finally, it will automatically start the migration. So I'm keeping these all checked and going to next, which is the validation and diagnostics page. Now, I really don't know why I usually get this error. It tells me that the connection to the Exchange server is not possible. But in this case, we can go back to the starting of the configuration and select the Outlook profile here. Then we can go back. Now what this does is it will take the settings, it will pull the connection settings and information from this Outlook profile. So I'll go next, again keeping everything as it is. Next, then clicking yes to this warning, saving the settings again, then click next. Now as you can see, it's connected to the Exchange server. It's now going to validate our credentials to Google Workspace and to the Exchange server, and that's it. Everything is green so that we can start the migration. So clicking next or clicking start, this will now estimate the migration size, the mailbox size, and all of this. So we've got 11 emails, 11 calendar invitations, and a single contact, which is something good actually. I didn't think that I have created some contacts. But this is the migration now. As you can see, it's going smooth and nothing is wrong about it. Now, of course, when you talk about large scale migrations, it's not as optimistic as this. So you will get some failures in here, you'll get some issues. But now the migration is done. You see that the migration is done. And if you want to validate, we can go to the Google Workspace. Now I'm signing into this user for the first time, so I have to accept the agreement, of course, before reading that, which is something very fine. That is totally wrong. Then I can see the email loaded here. So these are the emails that I have sent from the user, testing user 04, to these accounts, and these are calendar invitations. So if I go to the calendar of this user, I should see the events in the calendar. This is the one that I have created on the Outlook for this user a while ago. And if I go back, close these things, and this is one of the events that I have created. So this is an event that was created on Outlook and it was migrated to the calendar here. And probably if we check the sent items, I'm not sure if there are anything. So yeah, so I've sent some emails also from the user. These are all migrated emails, and these are actually calendar invitations. So this is the migration. The emails and the data is migrated. Now, when you want to view the status of the migration, you get a few options with this. So once the migration is done, you get two types of files. You get the log file, which is probably similar to this output that you've seen. If you go there, we should see the settings of the migration and the events of the migration. This will be useful in times of troubleshooting. I don't really think that it's a good idea to go and read the whole thing. But one thing you can get from here is there are some messages with invalid label name. Some messages haven't been migrated, so we're going to check those out. And the way to check those out is through the reports. So you can open the reports by clicking this link, or as I have shown you, by going to Start and then Google Workspace Migration and then Show Reports. This will open a small and simple HTML page for you where you can navigate and view the reports. So this is the migration that we've done on this specific date and time. And there are 3 users that have been migrated. In these 3 users, you see that there are 6 email messages for T-user 04, 3 email messages for T-user 05, and 2 email messages for T-user 06. There is 1 contact that has been migrated, and 11 calendar events that have been migrated, and 11 emails have been migrated. So as you can see, there are no failed items, no failed contacts, no failed calendar events, and no failed email messages. If you get any failed items, you can find it here, and then you can go back to the summary and you will get a report in the failed items where you can actually get the details about those failed items and why they have failed. Then you can decide if you want to do the migration again or not. Now, if the failure is because of let's say a forbidden attachment, there is no way you can migrate that email by other than splitting the email and the attachment, then uploading the attachment separately to Google Drive and then migrating the email without the attachment. Otherwise, just forget about it. So this is the lab and demonstration for GWMME, Google Workspace Migration for Microsoft Exchange. I really hope that this was useful for you and it did give you the insights and at least some basic information about it. Again, you're probably lucky if you haven't done a migration before, and if you're going to do this now, you're very lucky actually, because you get to do the authorization using this very nice and simple setup that they have created for you. Otherwise, you would have spent at least an hour trying to set up the Surface account and authorizing these scoops and troubleshooting any missed step and all of these. Now it's all being automated and it's really nice and awesome. So the next one I will be showing you is the data migration services or data migration service. Again, it's going to be the same flow, the same concept: prerequisites, GWS setup, source migration setup or source platform setup. This is going to be an IMAP migration. Again, I'm going to use my Exchange server for it, and then I will run the migration and then I will show you the migration reports for.